Hey Cowboys Nation. Welcome back to the channel where we don't just bring you news, we bring you the insider scoop, analysis and breakdowns you can't get anywhere else. Today's topic? It's a big one, folks. Just as we're gearing up for Week 9, we've got some major updates on key players who could make or break the season. We're talking injuries, and unfortunately, these aren't minor bruises. Today's list includes star names like Trevon, Micah, Parsons, DaRon Bland, and Zack. Injuries are always a wild card, and in football, they can strike when you least expect it. The question on everyone's mind is, can the Cowboys pull through with some of their top players sidelined or limited? We're going to go through each player's situation, what it means for the team, and what fans can expect in Week 9. Let's dive in. Let's start with the big one. Trevon. That name alone strikes fear into the hearts of quarterbacks across the league. Diggs has been a game-changer ever since he entered the league, but unfortunately he's been out with a season-ending ACL tear that shook the Cowboys' defensive foundation. Trevon was more than just a shutdown corner. He was a leader, a playmaker, and a guy who could flip a game with one big interception. Last season, he made a serious case as one of the league's top cornerbacks. In just a few games this season, he already had some impressive moments, and quarterbacks had already started avoiding his side of the field. And when you're talking about a defense, having a guy that quarterbacks don't want to throw at is huge. It means you can focus on other areas of the field, put more pressure on the QB, and force teams into tough decisions. So what does his absence mean? Well, the Cowboys have had to adjust their coverage schemes. Without Diggs, they don't have that automatic eraser for the opposing team's top receiver, which has led to a lot of shifts. The team has been trying to fill in that gap, and for a while it looked like DaRon Bland was going to be able to step up. But as we'll get into shortly, Bland himself is now dealing with an injury. It's a tough situation for a team that's built its identity around a strong, intimidating defense. If we look at the numbers, Diggs' absence has had a noticeable impact. Our secondary hasn't been as effective, and opponents have started to exploit that. You see, Diggs isn't just a defender, he's a disruptor. He forces quarterbacks to make tough throws, and he can change the game's momentum with just one play. Without him, that pressure has fallen on other players, and it hasn't been easy to replicate his impact. The defense has tried to adjust by leaning more on zone schemes, but let's be honest, Cowboys Nation, there's only so much you can do when you lose a talent like Diggs. The real question now is how this injury will affect not only this season but potentially the next. ACL tears aren't quick recoveries, and even though Diggs has youth on his side, we have to consider how he'll return next season. With Diggs out, DaRon Bland has been thrust into a critical role. Now, Bland has been stepping up in a big way. For a young player, he's shown resilience and a willingness to take on top assignments. He's had some impressive games, showing that he has the potential to be a real asset to the Cowboys' secondary. But here's the problem: Bland is now dealing with a hamstring strain, and that's one of those injuries that doesn't just go away overnight. A hamstring issue can be tricky, because even if he's cleared to play, there's always a risk of aggravating it, which could lead to a longer recovery. In the absence of Diggs, Bland has been doing his best to hold down the fort, and for a while it was working. The Cowboys' secondary had a noticeable uptick when Bland stepped in, and he showed that he's got what it takes to go up against some of the league's top receivers. But now that Bland himself is limited, we're entering uncharted territory. Let's break it down. If Bland can't play, we're looking at even more strain on the Cowboys' cornerback depth. That means more snaps for our backups and possibly a bigger role for Jourdan Lewis, who's got experience but may not have the same ability to match up against the top guys. Defensive depth is crucial, and with Bland potentially out, we'll see the coaching staff testing the limits of our secondary. It's going to take every bit of grit and preparation for the next man up. But remember, Bland's absence isn't just about covering receivers, it's about the ripple effect it has on the entire defense. Next up, Micah Parsons. If you're a Cowboys fan, you know that Parsons is a beast on the field. He's the guy who can break through a line, chase down a quarterback, and make tackles in the backfield like nobody's business. But he's been dealing with a knee injury. Now, the injury is being reported as minor, but here's the thing: when you're playing at Parsons' level, even the smallest injury can make a difference. He's a physical player who relies on speed and agility. A knee issue, even a minor one, can impact his ability to change direction and explode off the line. Parsons has a reputation for being one of the most relentless players on the field, but an injury can slow down even the best of them. If he's limited, it's not just a loss in terms of stats, it's a loss in terms of the energy and presence he brings to the team. In Week 9, the Cowboys will need Parsons at full strength if they hope to apply pressure on the opposing QB and prevent big plays. The team has indicated they're hopeful he'll play, but they're also being cautious. For Cowboys fans, this is a double-edged sword. You want him on the field, but you don't want him to risk a long-term injury. If Parsons does miss time, we're likely to see more of Dorrance Armstrong and Sam Williams. Both are solid players, but they're not Parsons. The Cowboys' defensive scheme revolves heavily around Parsons' ability to disrupt, and without him, that's going to be a huge adjustment. All right, let's talk about the offensive line specifically, the heart of it, Zack Martin. Martin has been dealing with a nagging calf injury, and if you know football, you know that's a big deal. Offensive linemen rely heavily on their legs for power, stability, and leverage. Martin is a veteran, one of the best guards in the game, and his presence on the line is invaluable. When he's in, our running game improves, the quarterback has more time, and the entire offense flows more smoothly. But with this calf injury, he's not at 100%, and that affects the line's overall performance. With Martin banged up, the Cowboys' offensive line becomes a bit more vulnerable. It could lead to more pressure on the quarterback and fewer holes for the running game. And we've seen the difference when Martin isn't playing at his best. The entire line can struggle to hold the defense, which disrupts the rhythm of our offense. If Martin can't go, it might mean reshuffling the line or giving reps to younger, less experienced players. And in a critical game like Week 9, that's a significant risk. All right, Cowboys Nation, that wraps up our deep dive into these key injuries heading into Week 9. Let's keep our fingers crossed for the best-case scenarios with Bland, Parsons, and Martin. Football is a game of resilience, and if any team can adapt and overcome, it's our Dallas Cowboys. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on the latest Cowboys updates and insights. And drop a comment, let me know how you feel about these injuries. Are you optimistic, or is there concern in the air? Let's get that conversation going. Until next time, keep cheering, stay loyal, and go Cowboys.